Thank you, Kelsey. So, in order to really understand the need and the demand and understand the quality of hay and forage preservatives, we kind of really need to start from the beginning, to understand why we're doing it. So, we first talk about forage eaters, which I like to look at as ruminants and hindgut fermenters. Okay. So, our ruminants, which include our cattle, deer, sheep, and goats, what they all have is a four-chambered stomach. And the chamber called the ruminant is where all the fermentation happens. So in that ruminant, what's happening is we're breaking down the fibers of our forages and grasses into fatty acids, and the animal is absorbing it as fatty acids for energy. Hindgut fermenters, which are our horses, but also, for fun fact, rhinos, rodents, rabbits, and koalas, do not have a four-chambered stomach or ruminant. What they have is a large intestine, a very long, large intestine, and their cecum, and they're fermenting in that cecum. But same thing, they're breaking down fibers into fatty acids to be absorbed as energy. Okay. So the important thing to know is the nutritional value of the forage is what's determining the amount of energy to absorb. Right? So it's a quality of our forage. Now, when we think about these quote unquote forage eaters, if given the chance to roam, these animals will self regulate. If they have lush grasses and forages to roam, what they will do is self regulate their consumption based on their calorie needs and nutritional needs as well. But because we live in a place with winter, or we have dry seasons, or we have containment, we have to look at how are we getting our forages to our livestock, and how do we get the most maximum nutrition. So our main one we tend to focus on is probably baled hay, and we need to look at getting the maximum nutrition from grasses for the longest duration. We also have to worry about toxins building up in them, specifically mold. And we find that has a lot of adverse effects on both cattle and horses from the start. So it matters what you grow, how much water it got, what the nutritional value from the soil is that it's able to absorb. So all that goes into effect on the forage itself. So that's point number one. The storage method. Where is it being kept? Is it out of elements? Very important. And then the duration of storage. How long are we trying to keep this for? Are we trying to get it for a whole year? Do we have to get it multiple? Are we planning on selling it right away? So the duration is really, really much affects the nutritional value. But the number one effect of all these is actually moisture. Moisture in our forages creates environments for microbes to ferment the total digestible nutrients, or TDN. Okay. Normally what we're looking for is microbes within the guts to ferment this. But if we're doing it inside the bales or in the forage already, we're losing that. Okay. Microbes inside bales and forages are going to create heat. Right? Now, when heat gets above 86 degrees, that is considered a measurable heating degree day. And for every day it does that, we're reducing the total digestible nutrients. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's not 86 degrees outside, it's 86 degrees in that bale. So that brings us to hay preservatives and forage preservatives. Now, these began back in the 1970s. They are always a buffered propionic acid blend, primarily to stop the digestibility, or to digestibility, but also to prevent mold. All right. So to preserve the feed value, what we're doing with them is we're trying to reduce the heat days that are above 86 degrees. We also are trying to keep the hay green with some of the acids. We can hold the nutritional value. And we know that these are most commonly applied on the intake of a baler or a chopper. The types of feeds that would use these are considered baled hay, high moisture corn, corn silage, TMR, or haylage. And just to show you some examples without preservative of the effects of heat days on total digestible nutrients, what you see here in this graph is the total number of heat days. As it continues, you are going to start to drop in your total digestible nutrients. So you can see at about 30 days, we're already at a 1% loss. And then we start to flatline around that 120 to 180, where we're getting between 10 to 12% loss of total digestible nutrients. This is just an example on showing how important moisture is in regards to the amount of hay preservatives you use, but also in your loss. So what you see here is on the far right, okay, of the graph, we're seeing our low moisture percentage of only about 19.6%. And you can see that by applying even 6.6% or 1% of hay preservatives, we have very little heat. We have very few heating days as compared to not putting anything on. We have almost 400. Now, as you can see, as you go to the left in the graph, the more moisture that's within the bale, you're going to increase the days, not just in the bales without any hay preservatives, but also those with, and you can see the different needs based on the percent that you would add. So when you have a very high moisture, you can see the advantage of having a 1% hay preservative versus a 0.6%. But just on that high moisture, you have over 700 heating days above 86 degrees compared to 200. This is just another example of heating days versus treated and untreated small bales. Now, what we have seen is that there is not a huge difference between small, medium, and large bales. They will have a very similar effect, but same thing here. As you see below 20%, we consider dry control. Probably not worth your effort to put on hay preservatives at that point in time. But once you get to 20%, you can see how much further down the total heating degree days are as in treated hay versus untreated hay.
Okay, to continue on, why are hay preservatives important? To make quality hay, silage, or stored feed that keep their value in storage, it's important to prevent the growth of fungus. When fungus and mold grow, they digest and break down the high-energy proteins that are vital to good nutrition. The result is low feed value, and the feeds that are unpalatable to animals and mycotoxins can severely disrupt good rumen health. Hay and feed preservative ingredients. So the main ingredient is buffer propionic acid. Not all hay preservers are created equal. With an active concentration of 68% buffer propionic acid, our preservatives provide amongst the highest levels on the market. Propionic acid is unrivaled in its ability to prohibit mold growth in hay and feed. Acetic acid. In addition to the propionic acid, acetic acid is commonly used in food preservation. While propionic acid is highly effective at controlling mold growth, acetic acid is more effective against bacterial growth. Citric acid. Organic acid is a common food preservative that helps to make it enables hay to be baled at a higher moisture level. It keeps hay and forages greener and prevents the loss of feed value. It keeps hay and forages fresh in storage for years. Safe for use at all temperatures and will not freeze. It inhibits the growth of aerobic molds until fermentation is complete. So our product options, we have a product called Hay Fresh Plus. This product is a total acid of 76%, 68% of it being buffer propionic acid, 8% additional acids with acidic and citric acid, mainly used on baled hay and some forages such as haylage and corn silage. Hay Fresh, the total acid is 70%, 68% buffer propionic acid, and 2% citric acid, mainly used on baled hay. Forage Guard, 68% buffer propionic acid, mainly used in high moisture corn and corn fodder harvested for bedding purposes. Now, I'd like to just note here that our buffer probe is to eliminate any concerns or issues of being corrosive on the baling equipment. Another product we have in a dry version is called MicroProbe 55. It's designed for livestock feeds for cattle, swine, and poultry. It offers basically the same benefits as liquid propionic acid, but the usages vary. So seen on the screen, we have different sizes of bales. We have round bales, we have the small squared bales, and even wrapped bales, the larger wrap bales. You can just see here there's a variation of different equipment being used across the nation for harvesting hay. Another key element in the success of the product is the correct applicators. So applicators are very key and important to have mounted correctly on the hay harvesting equipment. The design of the applicator is to spray the acid right into the throat of the baler to make sure we have an even concentration of the acid being applied to the hay as it's fed into the harvesting equipment. Also, in some instances, we get concerned about having in our TMR mixers that there can still be some heat that way. We can actually apply our product into the TMR to help eliminate any possibility of additional heating. Areas of concern: early harvest, mold, heat, and hay bale size. So cost can be determined by feed value losses, as indicated on some of the prior slides that Ginger shared. Animal safety and human. It's been determined that through research at universities such as Cornell and University of Illinois that hay treated with propionic acid is safe to feed to cattle and to horses. Hay preservatives are a necessary tool to have healthy and nutritious feed for our animals and livestock. There are several factors that go into producing quality hay, such as moisture, heat,